What up, guys? Welcome to the podcast today. Today, Eugene and I are going to jump into some different ideas about attitude. I guess you could say some of it's going to be ego. Some of it, we might even get into a bit about getting a little older on the mats, which I know a lot of you guys that follow me, even if you're not older, a lot of you guys actually are in your 30s and older. But even if you're a young cat, you're in there training hard, you'll have this moment. All of us have gotten to it. I remember older guys talking to me about this kind of stuff, and I didn't get it until I got it, until I got older. But a lot of this will be just kind of just some general ideas to chew on. Hopefully some of this stuff that we get into is going to be useful to you guys. As always, thanks to our sponsors for helping make this podcast happen. If you guys have never checked out CBD before, or you've never checked out Charlotte's Web CBD before, I encourage you to try it out. Again, CBD is a product that I like using as a part of my recovery. It has become my evening routine where I use the product. I use a tincture or gummies, depending on what I'm going through at that particular time. I'll take my dose that I use. I use a relatively low dose. I use that dose. And then, which for you guys, if you're listening to this, like I use around a little under 20, right? Use 20 milligrams. And so I use that. And then it becomes part of my nighttime routine, which is, take a shower, hot shower, take my vitamins that I take before bed, take my CBD, and then I go to bed. And again, it seems to help me out in that sense. And so I encourage you to try it out. Again, you can try it out for whatever you want to. I know a lot of people that use it for different reasons than I do. And so I encourage you to try it out for yourself. And, if you've never done any research on it, look it up and see what people say about the effects it has on them. But I know that a lot of people say that it helps kind of give them one, it helps with their rest, getting a more restful sleep cycle with their sleep, but also helping with like a sense of just sort of well-being as far as like being a little bit more relaxed and deal with things like stress. And so again, check it out. If you want to check out Charlotte's Web, you can check them out at their website, charlottesweb.com. The promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off the order. And again, that's the code there again, CHEWJITSU 20. Also, thanks to our buddy Matt over at Epic Roll. If you guys have never been to his website before, I encourage you to check it out at epicrollbjj.com. He has everything from gis and rash guards and shorts and the normal training gear to hoodies. He's got women's leggings, hats, t-shirts, women's t-shirts, jiu-jitsu belts, everything, gear bags. And again, he's got some cool designs, and the stuff is high quality. A lot of times, if you watch my videos, you'll probably see me either wearing a jiu-jitsu shirt or maybe a Epic Roll shirt. It's usually one of those, or I also sometimes wear gym shirts for like people's like gyms when I travel for seminars and stuff. The only thing that sucks though, and this is one of my sticklers, is if you go to a gym and they have a bad t-shirt, like the t-shirt's like just really scratchy, itchy cotton. So gym owners, I encourage you guys, if you're listening, get a good quality t-shirt made for your gym. But that said, I like matched t-shirts because they're super comfortable. They're soft. And again, I like the designs on them. So if you guys want to check out any of his stuff, you can go to epicrollbjj.com. The promo code is Jiu-Jitsu for 15% off. And again, that'll support the podcast and get you a discount on some cool gear. Also, guys, if you want to support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And upon joining, you'll get access to some exclusive content that we put out over the years. It includes little snippets with each guest that we've had on the podcast, along with some exclusive content that we have in the back end that we don't release anywhere else, including different videos that at some point should have been put up to YouTube, but for whatever reason weren't. Things like rolling videos or some different things like workouts and stuff like that I never posted up there, but they're in there in the Patreon. And if you want to get access to them, you can join using that link again, patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And also upon joining, two of the things that we included into that as a special bonus is a warm-up routine specifically targeted for jiu-jitsu players and their muscle imbalances that they typically have. Eugene created that one. And then I have a seminar that I recorded several years ago, which goes into gi and no-gi technique specifically. So you can see how the grips can change over, whether it's gi or the no-gi. And again, you can check that out at the website. Also, guys, if you want to join my daily email newsletter, you can do so by going to my website at jujitsu.net/join, JOIN. Upon joining, you'll get access to 3 free ebooks that I give away, as well as getting my daily email newsletter that I send out. Also, want to say thanks to the subscribers. This week, we did a little something special. So one of my students had a special donation thing going on with a organization he works on. And he... I work with Dave periodically for different charitable things. And the reason why I work with Dave is because I know I don't know about you. If I go to the grocery and someone's like, hey, the cashier will say, hey, do you want to donate to this charity? I almost always say no because I don't know what the charity is. And there's too many times where you have those shenanigans where you donate $1 and like 10 cents of that dollar actually goes to the reason why you're giving that dollar, right? The rest of it goes to, the people working and stuff like that. Nothing wrong with paying for people to do their stuff, but I want to make sure like a good portion of my money actually goes to help the actual cause I'm trying to support. And so again, when we've done toy drives, we've done back to school drives, and I've done some donations with Dave, I know that that's going to these local families here. And so in the day of the email newsletter, the Chew Crew, I basically said, "Hey guys, if you can help me, I'm going to help Dave hit his donation goal, which was $1,500." And I said I would match up to $500 of it. And so we completely crushed his goal. So we went past it. I donated my 500 just a little bit ago, and so we killed it. And so we'll be helping some local families here in or local kids here in Louisville, Kentucky. So appreciate you guys. And again, we did that through the email newsletter. So I think it's pretty cool. Awesome. And so guys, let's jump into it. Here's the idea. So recently I got a question, and if you watch the video that I put up on YouTube, then this will be kind of a recap, but we'll go a little deeper into it because we have more time on the podcast, right? So I got a question from a coach recently, and essentially what was going on was he had a young guy, blue belt, who skill-wise was very good, competing, was doing well, all the stuff, right? But what was happening was the kid had a bad attitude about losing. And when we say bad attitude, he's visibly upset about it. He's getting angry about it. Like it's to the point where it's creating a negative vibe when he loses. And so the coach said that when it came time to get promoted, he didn't promote the young kid. And the kid was kind of curious, like, Coach, why didn't I get promoted? I'm obviously good enough. You said that yourself. So why didn't I get promoted? And the coach was like, your attitude. And so, they hashed it out. But his question to me was basically from coach to coach. Like, Chewy, like, do you think I did the right thing? Do you think it should be just skill, or do you think it's a wise thing to do to where you don't promote someone on attitude? And so I thought it was a good question, and I brought it up in the video. And, the idea that I shared with him is the same thing here, where as a coach, like if we have a student who's getting slammed over and over and over again, right? What do we teach them? We teach them how to break fall, right? We teach them how to fall properly. That's the idea. So they don't get hurt, so they can continue to train. And so I think that, and I speak from experience about this, I'll speak in a moment about that, but I think it's important if you see someone who's displaying that kind of attitude towards losing, I think it's important to help them fail properly too, because failing is a necessity for training. It's critical to how we improve. And it's also there's not a possibility of if we cannot fail. I mean, we're all going to fail. We know that we're all going to fail, right? Like you just know this. Anybody that's gotten good at anything, developed any skill, has built anything, they know they have failed somewhere along the way. They've had mishaps and blunders and stuff like that. It's just what's going to happen. Like anytime I do something new, I always expect it. I know something's going to happen. Even if everything, here's an example, right? I remember like one of the first big sales I did online. This is in Jiu-Jitsu, but this is like just sort of another thing. It went so smoothly. It was like there was no errors. The website was working perfectly. Everything went off without a hitch. And then PayPal like sent me a message and said, hey, we're holding your money because you got too much money coming in all at once. And it looks strange. So then I had to like get all this proof, whatever. And the thing was, these were for gis. And so I needed that money to pay for the gis because we were doing a pre-sale. So I had to like scramble to get all this stuff together. I was like, I knew it. I knew something was going to happen. And basically I didn't know this at the time. You can just basically send information to PayPal. So I haze the information beforehand. There's going to be some money coming in, just letting you know, right? So now it's not a problem, but there's always going to be something that's going to happen. And so I share that with you because, again, what I was telling him, it's important that you teach this young guy how to fail properly. And when I say failing properly, doesn't mean you got to like it. And I also don't ascribe to the idea that you don't fail or you don't lose, you learn. I don't get down with it. I think it's a way of like sort of it's a softening way of saying it, right? Like, you don't lose, bro. You learn. No, you do lose. And it's precisely because you don't like losing that you actually learn, right? Like here's a completely unrelated example, okay? And this goes to the heart of it. You will not be ready for information until something has made you want to be ready for it, okay? So for instance, like, me and my wife, we were just laughing about this earlier. So my wife is on my diet with me. She's on the diet, the Eli diet, right? So she's eating all this chicken, eating all this meat, eating all this food with me. We're basically eating the same foods, just different amounts. And I was telling her, like, sometimes, like, when I get some of these the chicken breast stuff, I'll tear off the skin if there's some skin,
Mhm.
because the skin's like really chewy. And man, I was like, well, you're eating a lot of chicken and you're just chewing on it. You're like, God, I don't want to like have to chew on on the skin. So I'm taking the skin off. And she looked at me. She's like, I just talked about that 2 weeks ago. Were you not listening to me? And I was like, well, I am now, And again, it's like the fact that I had to chew on it and then tear it off myself and realize, oh, there's the contrast. And I know that seems like so unrelated, but she told me about it, but I wasn't ready because I wasn't even thinking about the skin of the chicken being chewy and being annoying. And a lot of, and I know this sounds stupid, but it's like the same thing that happens in jiu-jitsu where we, when we're rolling, the coach can show us a technique and show us a move. Let's say it's a defense, show us a defense. And then when we roll, we don't even know about the defense. But then all of a sudden, if we're having trouble with that thing and then they show us the defense, man, it clicks. If we pay attention to it.
Mhm.
Right. And so that's the idea, right? We have to be ready for that information. Um, and we have to be ready. And so again, when you talk about losing and learning, yeah, you're learning, but you're learning precisely because you're losing. And we pay attention when things sting. If things are going all right, we don't pay attention. And so I don't think it's necessarily a smart idea to try to like make the win, like make the losing super nice or whatever. I'm not saying you just don't want to lose you don't want to lose your head about it. You can dislike it, but say, you know what, I need this at the same time. It's like a bitter medicine, right? Like, if you ever had, like, I remember as a kid, I remember like when I started having to take medicine when I got sick, they give you the bubblegum medicine. You remember that stuff?
Mhm.
I remember the
The
bubblegum
liquid
medicine. Oh
shit,
yeah, it was good, man. It was the bubblegum medicine. It was good. It was like pink.
uh-huh.
It was delicious. I loved it. So like when I got sick, I was like, okay, they're giving me bubblegum medicine. And then I got older, and then they're either going to give me a shot or they give me like nasty medicine. I
Yeah.
was like, can I get that like pink stuff again?
Give me that bubble gum.
Give me the bubblegum medicine. But again, the thing is the little shot that I had, or the medicine I had to take, was better than being sick, right?
Yeah.
And so again, it's like that. It's like you don't, doesn't mean I like getting a shot, doesn't mean I like taking the medicine, but I know that it's better than the alternative. And so I'll go along with it.
Mhm.
And so it's the same thing. Like, I don't have to like losing, but losing is going to make me better. So I'll go along with it and I'll learn from it. And so that's my idea of like losing properly. You got to be able to look at it objectively without being emotionally reactive, and just saying, what happened? How can I adjust to this? How can I fix this?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really important lesson to learn at any belt level, but even more so at blue belt to purple belt, because if that kid gets a purple belt, young people are going to walk into the gym for the first time and they're going to look at him as being really, really good at jiu-jitsu. Like, he's like an upper belt now. And then they're going to follow his example. They're going to say, I guess this is what we do. Again, and when people come into settings, there's so many unwritten rules in jiu-jitsu and so many ways of just being. And a lot of it, like I've said before, is like, it'll start at the top. So how the coaches and everything else, how the upper belts are being, is how the new people will fall in line. They'll say, oh, this is just how we are here. Got it. Okay, cool. Like, if, for instance, if the gym is really weird about letting lower belts ask to roll, like lower belts to higher belts and asking them to roll, then that's just what people are going to be doing, right?
Mhm.
And so I think it's an important thing to sort of get that out of his system early, one, for his jiu-jitsu progress, but also so that, again, even off the mats, like, that's an important lesson, because think about how many people don't do things. They don't start things, not because of the reality of the situation, but because they're afraid of losing. They get paralyzed by the fear of losing. What if this happens? What if this happens? Right. And I think about my own life with jiu-jitsu. My jiu-jitsu, both in the gym and in competitions, got way better when my coaches basically had a conversation with me when I was a purple belt, moving towards brown belt. And they told me, basically, we're not going to give you a brown belt if you don't open up your game, start doing new stuff. And I told them, I said, well, I don't want to do new stuff because I don't want to lose. And they're like looking at me, like, you're not losing. You're training, right? And again, I'm still losing, but I'm learning from it. And in the gym, the thing is, it doesn't really count in the end, right? It's practice. So in the end, it doesn't count. So we got to learn from it. And as soon as I lost the attachment to always having to win and saw the sort of the bright side of getting beaten when I was training, it was like my jiu-jitsu got way better. And when I was going to competitions, I didn't even care about losing because I was like, well, I'm going to lose at some point. It's going to happen, right? I mean, I can't go undefeated, so it's going to happen at some point. So when I saw opportunities for submissions and things like that, I could go for them. And because of that, I improved my ability to win when I'm competing. And I also have a pretty high rate of submission in competitions, precisely because of the fact that I don't care if I lose. I can go after things if I see them. So, in that situation, I think the guy was right. I think he did the right thing, not promoting him to purple belt and saying, listen, we got to work this thing out, bro. We got to get past this whole thing where you get upset about losing. Doesn't mean you got to like it, but we do need to work with it constructively, because otherwise it's going to kill you. It's going to crush your jiu-jitsu and you're not going to get better. And off the mat, if that's an indication of how you take on new challenges, developing new skills, or, basically taking new opportunities, you're going to be hindered for your entire adult life. And this guy's pretty young, so I think it's an important lesson for him.
Well, I think part of having, like, he was getting like upset, like slamming the mats kind of thing. So what was he doing?
Yeah, like basically storming around, just like basically you could tell you'd submit him or you beat him, right? And then he would get up and making noises, and you could see him pacing or something like, just little stuff like that where, all right, let's go get him, man. And you could just tell he was just instantly, he was peeved.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not useful.
I think I think you have to think about what it does to the environment. First of all, people aren't going to roll with you because, I mean, if every training session with you is like a match to the death, like it's a tournament, number one, people aren't going to roll with you. You're not going to be a really, it's not enjoyable. Like if you submit someone, you don't want them to feel bad, but you also be like, yeah, great job. Let's keep going. You don't want, like, it's never a good feeling. I mean, a tournament, I don't really care, but it's never a good feeling to like submit your training partner that you care about and they see them visibly get upset. You don't want them to get upset. But also on the other hand, it could change like the environment. Like it's kind of like a negative environment that you start, it just adds to, it's not a growth kind of environment, not a growth kind of mindset. It's more of like, you can't handle your shit. And I think people aren't going to, you're not going to be a good training partner, number one. And then it's not going to be a good for the culture of the gym.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, look, and I say this, it gets us all at some point, right? Like every one of us. And I just say this because, again, we talk about this stuff and sometimes it can be very easy to point the finger at someone, but you also have to remember this happens to all of us. But, you're right. It will change the environment, because if I'm going into a role with you and I get upset about it, then it's really telling about a lot of things. One is like, it means we're going really competitive. And again, sometimes like you just want to play the game, right? Like we're just playing a game. We're not getting like ultra competitive. It's even like, I remember years ago, like playing basketball, like at like the local parks, they'll play basketball. And like every now and then you see guys get a little too competitive, and it was uncomfortable because you're like, we're just playing a pickup game of basketball that nobody cares about. Right. And like when you're rolling, you're two people that are in the gym just rolling. Nobody cares. It's just you're training. That's all it is. And if there's a competition training session, then you might turn up the intensity or whatever. But if you're just in a day-to-day rolling, just roll and chill out. But also it reminds me of the dynamic that I know many people have experienced. If you've ever trained in a group dynamic, especially, I'm sure it's very similar with women, but I don't know, because obviously I'm not a woman and I haven't been in like lots of groups dominated by women. But in groups dominated by men, you almost always see this thing where we rag on each other. We constantly make jokes on each other. We talk crap. We just do it all the time. It's just part of the nature of all of us, right? And we're all just going around just busting each other's balls, right? As we would say as men.
Yes, right.
But with that, there's like ideas about why we do that. And the theories on why we do that are a couple. One, it's to basically show that the strength of our relationship is stronger than the joke. So for instance, in the gym, we will like, we were talking about this the other day. In the gym, we'll make some really like not PC jokes sometimes, right? Stuff that like we'll jokingly say, oh, you're going to get canceled, whatever. And it's guys saying this. And I mean, we're talking about guys from anywhere from like 19 to like 50. You know what I mean? And hell, the women jump into it too. They'll say stuff too, right? So we're all in on it together. Well, if those jokes had been made about someone from like outside of the gym, like that they didn't know, who didn't have a relationship, it might be offensive to them.
Yeah.
But because we're buddies, we basically know we're just messing around, and our relationship is tight, and so therefore it's stronger than the joke.
Yeah.
Right. So that's theory. That's the first part. The second part is it's a way to test people. Because basically, if we're in a group together, right? And especially if you think about like the ideas in like sociology and stuff like this, like you think about men where men would have had to at some point band together in groups to go
Mhm.
kill large game and to fight other tribes and stuff like that. So we've got to be able to work in groups together very tightly, right? We can't just go solo. Doesn't work that way. We have to band with groups. And so it's a way of testing the group. Like, do you think you're better than the group? So let's say if I make a joke about you, you laugh, and then you make a joke about me and I get visibly upset, then it's like, whoa, 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 Chewy, why do you think you're better than us?
Yeah.
Because that's what you were saying by your actions. And so it's kind of the same idea there where if let's say you submit someone and you're like, cool, man, good job. And then they submit you and you get all bent out of shape about it. What you're too good to be submitted? You're better than this person? Like you out of everybody in here, we all are going to get submitted, but somehow you're the special one and you're not going to get submitted. That's silly. Like we know it's silly. And again, it says a lot to your inflated sense of self, right? Like your idea that somehow you're different than everybody else and you're not supposed to be submitted, right? That's a problem.
Yeah. Is that like we were kind of before the podcast started, we were talking about getting it, like when you finally get it? What is that kind of what you mean by when someone finally gets it? Like you're not better than the group, you're kind of part of the team, part of the environment, part of the process of learning.
I don't know. I think it's just more of a detachment from it. Right. So
Detachment.
so here's what I mean. So like for instance, a lot of people, their ego gets wrapped around the things that they do. Right. And which is normal. And everybody does that. I mean, because like you think about like if we say, who are you? And like, well, my name's Bob and I do this and that, whatever.
Sure.
Um, but we have to be careful with that to some degree because there's a lot of things that we're going to do and things that just happen sometimes. And it's like not a representation of us, or it's not us. It's just something that happened. So like if you get submitted, okay, you got submitted. Not a big deal. Doesn't mean you're bad at jiu-jitsu. You just got beaten. And listen, if you struggle with this, listen, I get beaten all the time, even by my students, right? So it happens. It's okay. It doesn't make you bad at something. You're just, struggling a little bit, right? And you're
Mhm.
having some competitive roles, and that's a good thing. If there was not competitive, there would be a problem. And I think that a lot of times people, it's weird how you see this. You'll see this problem emerge at different times. Some people come into it and they struggle with it out of the get-go because they came into this thing and they could recognize good skill. Like they can see it. Just about anybody can watch someone move in a certain way. Jiu-jitsu, playing the piano, I mean, anything. And you can watch skill and you can notice it. Wow, that person's good. And you can just tell by the way that they move
Mm.
so deliberately and smoothly. Exceptional skill is a thing of beauty. Now, some people come in the beginning and they're like they struggle with it because they can recognize it, but they're like, I can't do it. It's like I think I read a writer, they quoted that basically it's frustrating as a writer or an artist because you have good taste. You can see good taste when you see it, but then for whatever reason, when you try to write it, when you try to paint it, you can't do it. And it's like that kind of thing, right? So you see it at the beginning. And then sometimes you see it towards the middle, where in the middle, people sucked for a while, right? They were struggling, they were very untrained. They started getting better. And now they're on, oh man, I'm on this train. I'm getting good. I'm getting better. I'm getting better. And then boom, they start hitting those rough patches, those plateaus. And then they're like, whoa, 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 am I getting worse? Why am I was able to submit these people last week. Why can't I submit them today? And then what's going on? And all of a sudden they think they're getting worse, but they're really just playing the game more now.
Mhm.
And then there's that period towards the top. Once you've gotten pretty good and maybe you're one of the best people, and then either you get older and you lose a step, or maybe you get people that come into your gym that maybe just know your number, or the people that you're training around you get better, whatever, but you get to the top And then all of a sudden you find that you're not on the top by yourself anymore, right? Like maybe you were at the top for a while by yourself and all of a sudden people are catching up to you. This happens. And this could be maybe you're at the top of the white belt, top of the blue belt, top of the black belts, whatever it is, you're at the top of something. And then all of a sudden they start nipping at your heels and getting you. And then that ego comes back, that idea that like somehow you got detached from that you are going to lose and that you're no more special than anybody else. And that this is just sort of a foregone conclusion. You're going to get beaten. You're going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes. And you have to be detached from it. You can't attach yourself to this idea or whatever. You just have to be like, oh, that happened. Cool. Let's learn from it. Yeah. Let's do something.
It's tough to like, you know, you just kind of mentioned it's almost like this arc, right? It's like or like a wave, I guess. Like you're probably at the bottom of the totem pole, or not the best at white belt. Some people are better than others, of course. Then you get to like where that cross section of like skill and age and stuff, like your knowledge and your like athletic ability, you kind of reach that peak. You kind of reach that little cross section where it's like you're very good. It's kind of, some of those movements are effortless. You're submitting most of the people at the gym. Maybe think of like maybe your age or whatever, whatever it is. And then, you had mentioned, we talked about like you having like some of the older black belts reach out to you like, man, I can't handle these purple belts anymore. That are these young up and coming purple belts. They're just like, give me a hard time, or I'm barely holding them off. Right? They can kind of see like the holes start coming in the ship, and they're trying to plug the holes, but there's more holes coming in, and the water's coming in, and that's a tough thing too. It maybe share kind of some stuff that you're starting to deal with that. I mean, you're still extremely high level, but like, man, you're getting older. You just had a birthday, so you're getting older. You can't push it as hard all the time. You still got a little pep in your step, but like, it's tough. Like you said, you get caught. We all get caught. Like, what is that process like? What do you even tell these black belts that are starting to kind of see their skill level, their physical ability decline? The mentally, you're valuable. You have all this information, and you're started to transition to more of a coaching and leadership role, even more so than before, even if you're not as much of a competitor. But now your skills are starting to diminish a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, well, the first thing is, it's a blessing. You're getting older. Congratulations. I mean, what's the alternative? You die young? Nobody wants that. Right. We all want to live a little bit longer, right? We all want to continue to go on. So, I mean, be thankful that you weren't killed by some disease when you were in your 20s or something. I mean, that's a reality for a lot of people, Yes. I mean, tons of people die. So again, that's a blessing. Now, the blessing, like anything else, blessings sometimes have other sides to them that aren't all nice, right? Like, there's always good and bad, everything. Like when you're young, sure, you got youth, but you're so damn stupid, you don't even know what to do with it, really, right? Like what do they say? Like it's youth is wasted on the young or something like that, or whatever. I can't remember what it said, but basically your body, all that youthful energy, this fresh body that all this stuff, it's wasted when you're young and stupid, and then you get older and wiser, hopefully, and then you've got this like rust bucket that you got to do some work with. You're like, damn, man, I wish I had that old car that I was driving around, or that young car that I was driving around and moving around in. But as far as like that goes, I mean, it's really just recognizing. I think recognizing is like the most important part, because if you can recognize it and you're aware of it, it's easier to deal with. So if you catch yourself and you realize you're getting older, and that of course you're almost 40, it's going to be more difficult to roll with the people that are 25 years old and then they're coming into their physical prime, who are training all the time. Of course, it's going to be more difficult. We know this. This only makes sense because, thinking for myself, when I was in my 20s, mid to late 20s, I could go against people that were a little bit older than me, and they couldn't do a lot. Like I was in much better shape, and they just, they were a little bit older, not too much older, but a little bit older. And it was a lot more difficult for them to roll with me. So of course it's going to happen to me too. I'm not special. Right. So I'm getting older. So again, I don't have the same level of cardio that I used to. I don't have the same level of recovery that I used to. And again, reminding myself about that truth is useful, because again, it's so easy to want to get back into, for instance, my body still remembers the pace at which I rolled with when I was 32, which 32 was probably my best year, I think, as a practitioner, as far as like how I felt. So 32, like, I mean, I could just roll, bro. I mean, I could go, and my energy level, I could just go, boom, 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 boom. So never stop moving. Now I do that and I'll be friggin' sucking wind. And I'm like, it's like, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I so tired? And like, I can get into shape. Like when I got ready for the Worlds, I did a lot of extra cardio, a lot of extra drilling, stuff like that. And I got in pretty damn good shape. But man, it went away pretty quickly when I stopped doing all the extra cardio all the time. But I can't maintain that all the time. It's tough.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of work that I've got to put in to get like the same amount of cardio that I used to have is way different now.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of it's just awareness. So like as you if you're getting older and you realize that stuff, just take a step back and remind yourself, oh, we're getting older. This is what the older guys used to talk about or whatever, you know? And even if you're older and you're just newer, like a lot of newer people come into jiu-jitsu and they're a little bit older, remind yourself you're 45, you're 40, you're 50, whatever age you are. Don't try to keep pace with some 20-year-old, some 25-year-old who has no responsibilities, lives at home with mom, trains all the time. Like you're not going to be able to maintain that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Not supposed to. Different paths. And, you know, again, it's just one of those things where you just got to be mindful of it. And I think become a little bit aware because it's so easy because as we get older, we don't really, our minds seem to get a little sharper as we get older. We know more. We're typically more well-informed, all these things usually. But our bodies get older and our bodies get more broken. But we still feel like the same person we've always felt like. Like, I don't feel any different than I did when I was younger mentally, right? So I'm the same guy, right? Very different, but I feel like I'm the same person. But my body, like when I rolled, it's very different than it used to be, you know? And so again, it's a reminder. And so you just have to be aware of it, I think is the key. And I think that's the easiest way to do it. And again, awareness is transformative in itself because it allows you to just stare at it and see for what it is.
Yeah. One thing that helps me, you know, is gaining a little more perspective too. So like the perspective would be of, you know, how I do against people of my own skill set, my own age, you know, like that's a better, you know, test of like where I stand. And also, I mean, there's quite a variety of skill sets at, you know, at any age group and any belt level. But like that for me is like, how am I doing against those people at the gym?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I try to, and this is difficult, and I have struggled with this, and I still struggle with this, is like not attaching my self-worth to winning or losing, right? Like I'm not a terrible jiu-jitsu practitioner because I've lost, or just whatever, just not adding that as part of, like I said, it's jiu-jitsu something I do, and it's not like my self-worth is not linked to jiu-jitsu. And just having that, but that's hard, man. When we care about something, when we really care about jiu-jitsu, and we put, you can't achieve a black belt in jiu-jitsu and not give a shit about how good you are and wanting to be better. So like I you know, I'm not telling people, and you're not telling people to be passive. Don't completely not care that you lose. Try to take something from it, you know, try to learn from it into some capacity and use it to your advantage. So don't be completely passive, like, oh, well, whatever, I'll just make the same mistake over and over. But like, don't really attach your worth to your performance, so to speak.
Well, I think you can have a strong, passionate desire to win and to be better.
Yeah.
And not to be like just consumed by the fact that you lost. Right? Like, because that's the way that I think about it. Like when I compete, for instance, I want to win. Like I want to win with everything I got. When I'm out there competing, I will go after that person with every ounce of energy that I got, and I do not want to lose. I want to win. But if I lose, like whatever, I lost. Yeah. My wife still loves me. My friends are still my friends. Everything that was good is still good. It's just something, that one thing happened. And you know, like this is, you know, same thing when I'm training. Like when I'm training, when I'm actually training, of course I want to win. I'm going after it.
Yeah.
If I lose, it happens. So what? So it's just one of those things. It's like I just think of them as like it's the same side. It's two different sides of the same coin. You know, and so I don't get upset about when it happens. And I think you can desperately, passionately want to win at something, and just not be upset by the loss. It's because it's a game at the end. right? It's a game. It's what we're doing. You think about what we are doing. Jiu-Jitsu by definition is a game. We come in, we roll around with each other. We've got rules we abide by, and we're trying to win and lose. It's a game. And you wouldn't tell your kids to get all angry about losing at a game, right? You would tell them like, no, like we got to win, but we're not going to get upset about it. We're going to do our best to win. And that's what we're going to do, right? You can be ultra competitive and you still don't have to be a sore loser. I guess that's my thought on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think also you had mentioned, and we've talked about this before, that losing and loss is currency. It's the currency you need to improve. So I think when you do lose, if I do a tournament, it's been a while since I've competed, but when I've lost, I've always taken something away, like some type of it's given me some type of direction. It's given me some type of like push in some way. Well, I need to work on this, or I need to get better at this thing, or this is lacking. It just whatever. But I think it's like because the losses sting and they hurt, and it means something.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it doesn't, like, you know, if it's not painful in some way, I'm not saying physically, but like if you don't, it doesn't cause you some discomfort, you're not really gonna pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like just like you and the chicken skin.
I know it's such a stupid thing. I'm just saying it's like it's one of those things where we don't pay attention until something makes us pay attention. It's like the old thing. If we can tell a kid not to touch the hot stove, what are they going to do? They're eventually going to touch it. Yeah. And when they touch it, like, oh, okay, it was hot, right? You know, it's like they pay attention.
What's like
it's the difference between learning information ahead of time and then in the nick of time.
Yeah.
Information ahead of time, we'll retain some of it. Information in the nick of time, when you need it and you want it desperately, you'll pay attention.
All right. So same question, two different individuals we're talking about. What advice would you give about losing to a younger, newer grappler and then the older, seasoned grappler? What do you think? What advice would you give them if somebody's asking you?
Where are they losing? Are they losing in the gym? Competition?
In the gym.
What?
In the gym. Just to say, like, you know, losing in the gym. Let's keep it the same.
I don't know what would change. To me, it would be the same.
The same?
Right? So a young guy, okay, you're young, and you want to probably, if you're young, you're probably young people usually come into jiu-jitsu and they have the desire to conquer and be good, right? They want to prove themselves. It's not a bad thing, right? Like it's what we do when we're younger. Like, and again, I speak from a young man's perspective. As a young man, we come into things and we want to prove ourselves to our tribe. We want to prove our worth to those around us, right? And we do this a number of different ways. Like we will go and you know, build up a decent amount of monetary wealth and say, look, I've done something. Or you go win awards and prizes and we say, look at what I've done. You know, like that's what we do. And so you want to prove yourself. That's good. You should want to prove yourself. You should want to you should want to be better than what you are right now. That's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It's like I saw this post and it's like I see it shared a lot. It'll say like, it'll say you are enough, right? You're probably not enough right now. And that's okay because you can become capable of being enough. Like if you're talking about enough for yourself, you're enough to make it happen. But as far as where you're at right now, you've got to become someone different. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's like saying, like, for instance, like if you're like a white belt and someday you want to be a black belt world champion, you're sure as hell not enough right now. Now, you are capable of being enough and to do what you need to do. It's possible. But what are you going to have to do? You got to work your tail off. And just being like, I'm good right here. No, you're not good right here. This is your goal. You've got to become someone different. It's not about what you're doing. It's becoming someone different. Because the way that you're going to have to train, the way that you're going to have to think, the way that you're going to have to live, all of that's going to have to change if you're going to reach this goal, right? I mean, I can tell you that like the different stuff that I've done in my life, like I'm a completely different person as after going through them. I'm not the same person, right? And then, so again, if you're a young person, you're trying to go out and conquer, you're trying to improve yourself, you're trying to achieve these big goals that you have, these big dreams, go get them. And it's absolutely imperative to reaching that you do not get bogged down by the fear of failure and that you don't take it personal, that you look at it and you go, whenever something comes your way, you just look at it and say, okay, what just happened here? What can I do to fix that? What can I do to adjust? And that will serve you both as you get older in life and as you get older on the mats. Going to the old people, right? You get a little bit older. We could say being older and being brand new to jiu-jitsu. We could be older and say we're, very experienced and we're losing a step. Either way, right? And I think that a lot of times with older people, they've typically, they're probably in jiu-jitsu for a very different reason. And it's this is generalizations, right? Because I know there's some older guys that come in and they're like, man, I'm ready to freaking go compete and kill it. But I feel like as a general rule, most people that are a bit older, they've done a lot of proving themselves when they're younger, and they get into this thing, and it's this cool community, and it's a way to, get in shape, and they feel that sort of that competitive fire is still there, and they like to exercise it in the gym, and it's fun. It's a good thing. Well, with that, just remember to sort of be mindful of your place. If you're an old school competitor, old school guy who's been training and you're losing your step, remind yourself you're losing that step, and that's okay. You have other gifts to give. Especially if you've been training for a long time, you've got a lot of knowledge pulled up there. You can start sharing that. You're an elder of your gym. Be willing to share that off, because a lot of the younger people are going to need you, right? And again, we don't think about any other sport like we do with jiu-jitsu, where like we expect the black belts, even as they get older, to get out there and kill it with the young guys. Every other sport's like, no, we never expected Phil Jackson to go play basketball and be competitive with Michael Jordan, did we?
Yeah.
No, it's like he's going to be the coach. He's got some knowledge, he's got some experience to share, and he can be very useful, right? And then if you're on the newer side of jiu-jitsu and you're older, right, it's the same thing. It's like, look, okay, what are your goals in this thing? And be mindful of what that is. You're going to have different goals than a young guy. And when you come up with those failures, because some young guys get you, that's okay. Remind yourself of what you're doing here, and also remind yourself just to continue to look back at what it is. What did I just get? What just happened? What can I learn from it? And again, it goes back to what you're trying to do, your goals. And I guess that's where I kind of went about it in a really roundabout way, but it always comes back to, why are you here? If the young person's coming in and they're not there to win medals and stuff, that's cool. Don't go into it and get upset that you're getting beaten by the competitors, because they're going to beat you, whatever. And you can just kind of, remind yourself of that and just be aware of it. So yeah, I think it kind of like went roundabout there, but there you go.
Yeah. I was just thinking, as I was asking that question, I was like, what would I say to myself, and what did I think about? Like, I think it's hard to, if you're even a young person or an older person, you've had some success in your life, like maybe you're a young athlete and you've had success in maybe another sport or whatever. And then you're an older person, you've had success in your career, right? You have to approach it with that beginner's mind, right? Like that kind of holds true, because you got to kind of start from the beginning and learn. You don't want to, like, you kind of had that, you were like, I was a wrestler. I was like, I'm going to come into jiu-jitsu and just I should be a blue belt already. I should wreck house. And you get humbled. And I think it's important to get humbled, but then like you have to kind of take a step back and have that beginner's mind and start to kind of, all right, how do I break this down? With your, a younger person, you can spend a lot more time on the mats. You have a lot more brain power to like dive into this thing and start to research and learn. If you're an older person, you probably are much more efficient with your time. You're more, how you learn, and how to learn things. So you kind of start with that like lens, and you learn that way and start to create your little jiu-jitsu game off of that, I think. But having your goals and your reasoning for why you're there is like, it's a good way to keep those expectations where they should be. Because you're not going to win an adult world title training like 2 days a week. It's not gonna happen. You got to put the time in. You got to change your life. You got to change your lifestyle, and the other thing, I'm getting a little off topic, but I was like just thinking about like when our youth kind of like wasting, or not wasting, but like, you rely on your youth so much and your body's resiliency. Like if we do a lot of the things when we're older, if we did them when we were younger, like imagine how much more we could have squeezed out of that body, how much even better our performances could have been. But you don't have to. You don't listen to people until you actually like have to go through it yourself, the aches and pains and the sore back and all this shit that you have to deal with as you get older, and then you have to take time to really maintain your body.
Yeah, and if you're not doing jiu-jitsu for a competitive situation, like if you want to casually compete, sometimes that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing it to be like a hardcore competitor, be very careful about feeling like you have to get something out of it. You know what I mean? Because again, it's this thing, and I get it, but like everything that in society is like, what do we get for it? Like, okay, I'm putting all this time and effort into it. What do I get for my time? What do I get from effort? Well, did you have fun? Did you enjoy yourself? Did it support you in having a better life? Like, okay, maybe you're not the best guy that ever walked on the mat. Who gives a shit? Like, are you enjoying yourself? that's good enough. Like we think we're supposed to get something, and then we get so like hell bent on this idea of progress. I've got to get so much better. Like I got a question the other day about a guy who was asking about how to maximize his progress, and he's training like 3 days a week. He's just starting jiu-jitsu. He doesn't want to be. He's an older guy. He doesn't want to be a hardcore competitor. And my question back was like, why are you worried about maximizing anything? You're just doing this because you said you want to do it as like a hobby. Why do we have to maximize anything? Why can't you just do it because you come in, you're like, I enjoy doing this. Like when I go into my horse riding lessons, I don't go, okay, I need to maximize my time. I'm having fun with my wife. I'm riding horses out in nature, and I'm going to suck at it. Right. Like I've got these like little, like 11-year-old like girls that are just killing me on it. And they like laugh at me. They're like, hey, mister, you suck at this, whatever. So what? It's fine. I'm all right with it. Because again, I'm just enjoying it for what it is, right? I'm having a ball with it. And I think that's one of the things that really messes up our ability. And honestly, the problem with that is it messes your ability up to have fun and actually get better at this stuff, because you put so much damn pressure on yourself. You're treating it like it's school. Like you're going in, you have a test. Like we're just doing this stuff to have fun. We're playing a game. Stop making it so serious. Like get in there and push yourself and have a desire to win, but it doesn't have to be so damn serious. It's like playing a game with your friends. Like you really want to beat them. You really want to win. But if you lose, it's like, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. And I think sometimes that happens to people where they get into stuff. And if they're just like, that's their way they're wired, right? They're like, I'm getting better at something. And so like, they learn how to maximize things in their life where they get the most production out of this, that, or whatever. And they build their businesses and they do this, that, whatever. And then they get into jiu-jitsu and they're like, how do I do it here? It's like, just stop and enjoy it a little bit. Now, if you over time, if you fall in love with it, you'll probably find that all of a sudden you're starting to like dive deeper. You're becoming more into it and everything else, but just back off a little bit and not put so much pressure on yourself. And you'll probably find that you do better off with that mindset anyway. They've even done studies with people, and they find that people learn better in a state where they are excited, like their minds are aroused, but they're not too stressed out and they're not too relaxed. It's like right in the middle, right? It's like the Goldilocks thing, right? So if you're too relaxed and you're just whatever, that's not good. But if you're so like, I gotta do good at this, whatever, then you're putting too much pressure on yourself, too much stress. You gotta be somewhere in the middle. And to me, like the way that I think about it is like, you're so excited to do it, you're pumped to do it, and you're just having a ball doing it. And there you go, right? And then when it's that way, then you're just playing, you're just having fun with it. And that's humans. Our base mode of learning anyways, play. You look at little kids, they don't learn from a lot of the stuff your children learn from you probably aren't like because you sat there and said, all right, kids, sit down in a classroom now and we're going to teach you. No, they just were playing with stuff. They were playing with mouth noises. They were playing with stuff they found on the floor. They're just playing. And that's a way that we learn, opposed to trying to make everything so damn serious. So, all right, guys, that is the podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Went off the rails there a couple times.
As we do.
As I often do. And I hope that we're clear on that. When I was saying that, because I don't want to think like people get all upset about stuff. When I say you're not enough, I don't mean that like I mean like that at where you are. If you want to be somewhere different, then you are capable. So in that sense, you are enough.
Yes.
But who you are right now is not enough. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. And again, that is a perspective. It's not necessarily true. That's just my idea, and it helps me out. So again, thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, guys, just letting you know, we're sort of wrapping up the early release of the Swollen Roll product that I had done with Eli, which again is basically it's a more of a hypertrophy style, bodybuilding style workout program that I've worked and put together with my coach Eli. We put that together along with some stuff where you can see the kind of diet that I use when I'm cutting weight, or when I'm training. I'm still in that same diet, just more food right now because I'm bulking up, as well as other things like recovery and things like that. You can check it all at my website at chujitsutraining.com. So it's chujitsutraining.com. And you go there and you can join the early release. Upon the early release, we'll be putting out some more information with you guys and kind of getting your feedback from it. And also, we weren't going to do this at first, but because we got a lot of requests for it, we're also going to have a at-home version, because I got a lot of people saying, hey, like I got, dumbbells, barbells, and some bands. What can I do from home? So we're going to do an at-home version soon. So you can get that at jujitsutraining.com. And also, guys, thanks to our sponsors for helping make the podcast happen. If you guys have never checked them out, go to charlottesweb.com. And again, check out through some of their products. I encourage you to, my little challenge to you is, if you've never used CBD before, try it out for a month, see what you think. A lot of times with my students, I'll give them like a sample of it, and I'll say, try this out for a month. And then a lot of times afterwards, they become CBD, I don't want to say fanatics, but they become CBD fans after that. And so again, I encourage you to try it out for yourself. Try it out for about a month, see how you feel. I like taking mine at night. I know Eugene does a little bit in the early part of the day, like in the morning, to kind of take the edge off, kind of figure out which one you like. And again, their website is charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off the order. Again, with Charlotte's Web CBD. Also, thanks to Epic Roll. Matt at Epic Roll is a black belt who makes jiu-jitsu gear for jiu-jitsu people, right? Again, I'm a fan of his stuff. He makes good quality stuff, good designs, everything from gis and rash guards to women's t-shirts, men's t-shirts, leggings, spats. I mean, everything under the sun. Whatever you're looking for jiu-jitsu wise, he's got it. And he's got all with cool designs and high quality stuff. So if you want to check him out, you can go to epicrollbjj.com. And then the code to save a little bit of money is Chewjitsu, CHEWJITSU. And guys, if you want to support the podcast directly, go check out our Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, where upon joining, you'll get access to the exclusive content we put up there. And last but not least, guys, if you want to join my email newsletter and get my daily email, you can do so by going to my website at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. Upon joining, you'll get access to some exclusive ebooks, and you'll receive my daily email and become part of the Chew crew. So, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.